This is Matthew McConaughey.
Natalie Portman.
James Patterson.
Michael Ian Black.
And you are listening to
Five Questions
with Dan Schawbel.
While your early childhood ambition was to become a cyclist, your fate changed after a horrible accident and you pursued a fashion career instead, thanks to some of your friends at the time. What gave you reassurance that the fashion industry was right for you? And what were the first steps to break into it?
Yeah, I think the first steps to actually be aware of it was an English pub, which was where I met a couple of people that were also patients in the hospital where I was. I always joke it's a bit like prison. We all got let out at the same time, and one of them said, "Oh, come on, we all got on so well in hospital. Let's meet up." Luckily for me, he chose one of the guys chose this English pub called the Bell Inn in Nottingham, England, where I come from, in the middle of England, and luckily it was the place where the art students went. So architecture, photography, fine arts, graphics, and fashion. And one of the students said, my dad's helping me set up a little shop. Will you help me? So I said yes. And that's how I actually got into fashion, which was literally by accident, falling off my bike. So I ended up not being a professional racing cyclist, which incidentally I would never have been because I was not good enough. But so that was my dream. And then I entered the world as just helping a friend with a boutique, and that's what it was. I used the word boutique, because it was important because that's what we called them then. There was no other fashion shops in the town where I came from, so we were the first. And then I think from my history that after that I met my girlfriend, now my wife, and she'd studied at the Royal College of Art, so she came along and we fell in love. She came to live with me, and then we ended up, she was teaching me how to cut a pattern, how to construct a suit. And so the second part of your question which is reassurance, that I think I just immediately felt it's lovely to earn a living doing something which is creative, and the joy of having an idea and then the idea turning into reality and then actually selling is really exciting, and the thing is with Paul Smith is that it's never been like a rocket. It's always been very calm, very gentle. There's never been a sort of moment where I've suddenly thought, wow, we've moved forward now, or we're selling around the world. Wow. There was never a moment like that. It's always been first a little shop, and then doing lots of other jobs in my free time, and then making a tiny collection and trying to sell it to other people. And so it's been very gentle. And I think that's the reason why we're an independent company as well, because I seem to be okay at design and okay at running a business. And 50 years later, I'm still here somehow. I don't know quite how, but it's amazing.
Yeah, and that's rare too. I mean, I talk to a lot of people in the arts. I mean, I've interviewed thousands of people, over 100 for this podcast, and entertainers and designers and all sorts of people in the arts. They're not always great business people, but if you have that combination of being very creative and being a designer in your case, and also have the business acumen, it can be really effective. Whereas if you just love, like you seem to love both aspects of it, whereas a lot of people just want to be that creative. They want to be the talent in many ways, and they then have to hire and trust all these people to take care of the business. So I think you're very fortunate to have that. And I think that anyone in the creative space should have at least some business background or a partner or someone.
I think nowadays, that you definitely need to be aware of, if you're a pure designer, it's very difficult to exist anymore, because even if you're a pure designer working for one of the large luxury brands, you still have to be aware of marketing, social media, trends, what's happening in the world. You just won't survive if you're not. And so when I say I'm okay at business and I'm okay at design, I'm not being over modest. I just think that's true. I think luckily I've right at the beginning when I was like, 21, 22, I had my little shop 2 days a week, Friday and Saturday. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I did anything that came along just to learn my trade, but earn a little bit of money as well. So I packed boxes, I ordered fabric, I designed fabric, I took photographs for magazines because I was capable of taking photographs. So I sort of got a little bit of everything. So many of the designers now, they're so great and so pure, but it's unless you've got somebody behind you who's, I'm just going to stop there for a second, because it's not just somebody who's who knows about business. It's a knows about the fashion design business. Very different to a formula of running a bar or running a restaurant or running a more matter of fact business. Fashion is very, very fast moving, changes a lot. And there's a famous saying in my company: nobody cares how good you used to be. And I think that's pretty, that you keep saying that in your head, and then that keeps you motivated,
Yeah, I almost compare it to a technology company. Like technology and fashion are very similar in the fact that, let's say you're Apple and you got to keep adding all these new features to your iPhone. And we're at a point now, if you get an iPhone, like how much better is it? It's like, it's hard for them to even keep up and keep innovating. Whereas in fashion, you kind of have to innovate in the same rate. Like, what's the next thing every season?
And then you're also locked into an image as well. So, you'll have a sportswear image or a clothing image or whatever the image is, or you might be an outerwear company. And then there'll be whole winters when, wow, business is so brilliant. And then suddenly we have mild winters, and then suddenly the trend goes more to layering rather than just one big coat. And that's suddenly help, we have to think about something differently. I think because I started more or less as a shopkeeper, working with my friend, I've sort of always designed collections that is like a shop full of clothes. So, and it's quite interesting coming from a provincial town, because if you live in a provincial town, you probably get the same customers coming on a regular basis. So they'll come, and then 3 weeks later, they'll come back in to say hi. So it's your job to always like re-merchandise the shop, change things around. And people used to come into my little shop, 3 meters by 3 meters. Wow, Paul, you've got so many new things. And I hadn't got any new things. It's just that I'd put all the reds together and all the blues together, or I put all the florals together, and everybody, was excited. So it's very much about, back to what we said earlier, the balance of, design, merchandising, retail, business.
Absolutely. And I've interviewed many designers for this podcast, including Betsy Johnson, who was just on the show, Steve Madden, Diane von Furstenberg, who have successfully built and sustained their brands for many years. How has your brand stayed relevant for so long, and what aspects of your personality and style make your brand unique in this ultra competitive retail world?
I think they're definitely keeping my feet on the ground, never really thinking I've made it, never putting my back into the chair, because as soon as you do that, there's somebody overtaking you on the freeway, and so therefore, and actually loving your job, because if you love your job, then you are aware of what, right now people have been, staying at home more. So therefore sportswear is more popular right now rather than, clothing. So you just knowing your job really, and staying relevant, very much of the balance of front of house and back of house. So front of house means, 2 fashion shows a year in Paris for many years, over 100 shows. So you're still keeping your product into, the media, the newspapers, the magazines, and online. We luckily, by chance, sell to a lot of famous people. I mean, but we've never aimed at selling to famous people, but luckily a lot of them like what I do. So, we sell to musicians, actors, just all people from different walks of life, and that obviously helps you keep relevant. And then just being aware of things that do well, and understanding that you can keep something that does well for several seasons. And all you have to do, a bit like we were saying with Apple, for instance, or with iPad, you need to just nudge it a little bit, not really give it a big push, because the phone's brilliant. So let's try and just improve the camera, or just improve the way it feels in your hand. And so with fashion, it's like right now, for instance, my clothing, my tailoring, the suits are really popular with Paul Smith, especially anybody who's having their first suit. But right now we've deconstructed the suit, so it's very soft, almost no shoulder pads, very soft construction. So it feels like you're wearing a cardigan. So it is still a tailored piece, whereas 2 years ago, 3 years ago, people wanted a real sharp suit, and so you just keep up, basically, and then you'll have a long life.
Yeah, and it probably feels like you're younger because you have to keep up with the trends of what maybe younger people are wearing too.
I'm blessed with not even thinking about my age at all, and so of course, I'm some of my views are from a different period of time, and some of my references are from a different period of time. But luckily, I've got a very young team around me who definitely point me in the right direction. So I'm blessed with that, and I'm very happy to take their observations and their criticisms, if there are any, and understand that it's about the balance of keeping your more mature customer, but also attracting a younger customer. We just had a lovely email from we have quite a substantial business in Japan, and we just had a lovely email because we did this capsule collection to do with the 50th anniversary, and our person who runs our business over there said it's really lovely because so many of the under 21s have been buying the capsule collection. And can you imagine, you've been going for 50 years and suddenly you've got these under 21s getting excited about what you do. It's a real blessing.
Yeah, congrats on the 50th anniversary. And your monograph book captures your creativity and unique spirit. Even though you've said the key to creativity is that you just have to go with it, what are your sources of inspiration and the obstacles that get in the way of your creative thinking?
Well, I think as anybody who knows my work or knows some of my sayings, the things I say a lot, which is you can find inspiration in anything, and if you can't, please look again. And this room where I am, which is as you know, probably quite a well-known, well-documented room, is full of books and artifacts and kitsch next to beautiful, low cost next to high cost, textured, smooth, rough, and all those are inspiration for putting clothes together. And Paul Smith is often about irreverence as well, having a beautiful cashmere suit with a denim shirt, which is what I'm wearing today. I'm wearing a cashmere and cotton corduroy suit, but with a denim shirt, which is 20 years old. So that irreverence and that playing with opposites, I think, is really the Paul Smith way. And I think the obstacles can be the market itself. So the obstacles can be the fact that there is a current trend or a moment which is not running in parallel to your way of thinking. So the trick is how you can adjust to, let's say, a more casual way of dressing, or a more relaxed way, or a more sporty way. You've got to be talented enough to sort of keep, I call it flowing with the river, you know.
I love that. And as a customer of yours, I'm wearing one of your sweaters right now, full disclosure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I remember trying to order something from your website at the start of the pandemic, but was unable to because you had suspended your e-commerce sales. You've said that COVID is the most devastating challenge you faced in 50 years. What was the hardest decisions that you made to keep your company afloat and your workers safe during this time?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm sorry that you couldn't buy the sweater, but we were told by the government that we couldn't keep the warehouse open because of social distancing. And then we managed to reorganize it and open up again. And obviously, that's really helpful during these difficult times when most of our shops around the world are closed. The hardest thing is, you know, unfortunately, having to make sad decisions about, in some cases, staff, where you're having to reduce the headcount, which you absolutely do not want to do, and selecting the people that you have to sadly ask to leave is a difficult one. And so shrinking down the size of the collections, shrinking down the size of the teams. In some cases, we've got 2 shops where the lease has come to the end. So right now we'll just walk away from them, even though they were doing well. So it's been a trimming of overheads wherever you can do it without being too painful. But it has been painful because I you know, in my 50 years, I've witnessed that obviously the big financial problem in 2008, and other financial crisis. Also in England in the 1970s, we had what was called the coal miners' strike, you know, when we only had electricity in shops and houses for 3 days a week. So I have witnessed a lot over the years, but this one is completely, totally worldwide. So it's very different. Right now, I have no shops open in Europe at all, no shops. So Belgium is for 6 weeks. England is for 4 weeks. Paris is for 4 weeks. So it's just a very complicated time. And the only way you can do is just hope that you're doing enough to not, you know, close down, but keeping everybody happy, like you, and wanting to order your sweater, you know, which is very important to us.
Yeah, it gets me thinking a lot because like you, I love what I do. I've been doing what I love for so many years that I almost forgot what it's like to not do what I wanted to do every day. And I feel like when it's your name, when it's your company and things don't go as well, it hurts you more personally and emotionally, rather than if you are just clocking in 9 to 5 and you just want the money and you don't really care about the overall institution. Do you
Absolutely.
feel like it's affected you personally? Just see, because physically you're like, you know, if you walk by that street again, let's say, and you don't see your store, even though you had to make that decision, it still hurts because you remember what it was like when you started from scratch and how much effort you've put in over the past 50 years to build it.
Yeah, no, without question, it's a very different question. Well, it's a very different thing when it's your business, because obviously you're very emotionally attached to it. And many of my staff have been with me from 15 to 30 years. I mean, it's incredible. Our warehouse manager has 30 years. So, so you really have to just hope you can make it all work and continue, which we will do. We will definitely do, because we've got such a good young team here and very good energy. And we never rest on our laurels. We're always looking at the future, and we really enjoy the challenge, you know.
And I think that's the secret to motivating too, is you have that greater vision and you earn that trust over time. And what's your best piece of career advice?
I mean, keep your feet on the ground. Nobody needs you or me. You know, nobody needs us. So what's your point? So your point is 5 questions. Brilliant, genius. I mean, it's really clever doing that. And my case is nobody can actually put me in a box because they're not quite sure if we're luxury or if we're street or if we're bohemian or if runway, and you know, that's, people just love that. And you know, some of my clients have been with me for so many years, in all the way across France, Italy, USA. You know, sadly we lost Barney's from New York, and they were my first client, you know, in USA in 1977. So, you know, there's a loyalty to Paul Smith, which is joyful. So the career advice is, no ego, keep your feet on the ground. Nobody cares how good you used to be. What is your point of view? Then you might progress. If you say, my point of view is that I make everything inside out and it's always in black, you've got a point of view, you know. So that's what you need. Nobody needs another designer or another podcast, you know, but if we can work it out, then we're okay.
Yeah, and that's a lot coming from you too, because, you know, designers are, you know, it's somewhat ego driven, much like in the media and entertainment.
Yeah,
well, so to say no ego, I think that's actually really good advice, especially if you're industry, because people get so wrapped up in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's only fashion. It's not heart surgery, or, you know, work helping out in a war zone. You know, we have to take it seriously. We employ a lot of people, but you can be lighthearted but proper. Absolutely. I would say lighthearted but proper. I'll say it again: lighthearted but proper. Feet on the ground, no ego, and enjoy every day. And then finally, the most important sentence: every day is a new beginning.